Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
Yo soy Antonio.
Sir Antonio.
Yo soy Antonio.
Yo soy Jeremias Martinez.
See?
All right, cool.
I got a little bit of Spanish. I can't go that far into it, but
I can't go that far in it. I can tell you my name.
Right.
And that'll probably be it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm glad we started off on a multicultural note here.
Say queso. That's cheese. I got small parts.
There we go.
We can go from there.
All right. So 2 days in a row, we start off talking about different languages. You talk about sign language.
I think that's true.
Because we talked about sign language yesterday.
We kind of talked about, I talked about like one thing being taco, which I don't think actually was taco, another thing being shut up, which I don't think actually was shut up. Like, yeah, we did all these things. I think I lied to the people when I said this was that, which I don't fully blame myself for. I'm going to say I was given bad information, which seems like, deflecting, but still, like, I thought I was doing a good thing. I thought I was helping out the people. I don't think I was helping out the people. I think I was lying to them, but it's fine. I know soy Antonio, that's actually how you say, my name's Anthony, so that's part, is at least, I'm pretty sure that's right. If I messed that up.
No, that should be. And I did say, yo soy Jeremias Martinez, which translates, my name is Jeremiah Martinez.
See, yeah.
Yeah. I like my name in Spanish, man. I think my name is Spanish. I think my name is Spanish as hell is sexy, man.
Well, Martino, like my saying, like Anthony Bertacci. Like Bertacci is super, 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 super Italian. I don't know how that plays necessarily.
Antonio
Bertacci, yeah. That's just, yeah. You just got like the hand moving.
Yeah, that's what
like
I did.
That.
I did
yeah,
that.
Yeah, the little hand moving going on.
You have to do that. You have to do it at the end of the first R. Bertacci.
And you got to do the thing where it's just like some like Family Guy thing, the Bob, ba-da-boo, be like Anthony Bertacci kind of thing like that, right? You got to do something around those lines.
All right. Way to start off the show talking about different foreign languages here.
Right.
Man, this is what we do here. We very multicultural.
We take left turns. It's fine.
Yeah, we do. All right. And all right, well, let's get started off here. We're talking about, unfortunately, what's something that happened that was unfortunate as of last night. Longtime Pittsburgh Steelers owner Dan Rooney passed away yesterday at the age of 84, and man, he was really beloved by the Steelers organization, beloved the entire NFL, and he was beloved by a lot of the players, a lot of the coaches that were in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching. I think it was it Jordan Bettis is on ESPN, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was watching one of the ESPN shows. I think it was First Take this morning, and Jerome Bettis, when they were asking him about his memories of Rooney, he was like, well, Jerome Bettis was talking about when his parents would get to go to a lot of games and all that. But then I think Rooney kind of recognized that Jerome Bettis' parents were going to a lot of games. I guess they were sitting up in the nosebleeds or whatever. Then one of these days, one day Dan Rooney called Jerome Bettis to his office. Bettis didn't know what it was for. And then he's all like, do your parents go to the games? He's like, yeah, they try to go to every game. He's all, well, I want them to get to the best seats. I want them to get 2 seats in where I sit at. I was like, So he didn't expect that. That was actually a really cool thing that Jerome Bettis said. That was the type of person that Rooney is. He's going to be definitely remembered as being an advocate for the Rooney Rule,
right?
Which is
that's his legacy, which
is a really good thing. The Rooney Rule is to give minorities a chance to have an interview for a head coaching, general manager position. I think even it works for defensive coordinators too. So without that, Mike Tomlin probably would have never been a head coach. He wasn't even set to be a favorite at that time.
Right.
And then I guess you just blow away the interview process, and now look at Tomlin now. He's been the coach for the Steelers for 10-plus years now.
Well, that's how they do. They hire a coach, and they keep the coach for like 10, 15 years. That's generally how they do it. And the thing with the Rooney Rule is not necessarily, it's like, oh, you have to hire a black person. Like, you have to. Like, no, it's just basically saying that when you, like, go through this interview process, you can't just be like, oh, I like Andy Reid, let's hire Andy Reid. Nothing against Andy Reid. I'm just saying, like, if someone becomes a free agent as far as coach goes, you can't just be like, oh, I'm taking him. What about everybody else? I want him. Yeah, like, you actually have to go through, like, a process of just, like, no, look at other people, man. Because, like, even if someone like, let's say Tomlin didn't get hired by the Steelers, even if Tomlin didn't get hired by them, he's at least going through his interviews, and you get like the memory in the back of your head, like, oh yeah, him, yeah, he was pretty good. Okay, yeah, hire, like, bring him in one time. Let's see how he actually is. Like, it's just getting people in your head. It's meeting new people and learning new experiences. Like, all that really is. It's not forcing you to do it. It's just saying, like, hey, maybe, meet more people, see what happens when that goes. And that's, like you said, that's its lasting legacy. And they have stories all throughout ESPN about Roethlisberger or Antonio Brown or Ed Too Tall Jones, like a number of people throughout the Steelers organization, which is a pretty historic organization, of everybody basically just saying how good of a person he was. Like, forget about the fact that, yeah, him being the owner of the team or whatever his title actually was. Forget about the fact that they won a whole bunch of championships in this time. The fact that he basically was thought of as a great guy. Like, it's hard to be both, like, ultra successful and a good person, right? Like, you can be a good guy, the whole nice guys finish last, or the fact that, like, sometimes the owners aren't exactly the best people. Like, he seemed to accomplish both of those, which is kind of insane considering, A, the sport that, he was the owner for, and B, the fact that he did it for this long a time, and there was never any kind of a hint ever of, like, any scandal or anything else like that. Like, I'm not saying, like, people are always going to be like Jerry Jones, but, like, he seemed to be, like, the best of us.
Yeah, exactly. He was very, I can say as the words of Kendrick Lamar, he was humble.
Yeah.
So, I think, the Rooney Rule was a really good thing for the NFL. As of right now in 2017, there were 8 minority head coaches. That's a lot of progress, but a lot of people still think that's not enough. Especially how a lot of people become that first choice,
right,
as well. But basically, the Rooney Rule was kind of like the equivalent of being a equal opportunity employer, something like that. I don't think I said that right, but you know what I mean.
Right, and because when they did this whole thing, like, there were 2 minority head coaches. And by the way, like, the Rooney Rule is not just other black people; it's Latino. It's
exactly.
Else.
Like Ron Rivera fitted that aspect as well.
Yeah, like, there was 2 minority head coaches when they came in, and Tag Lebu, who the commissioner at the time, was kind of like, all right, cool, we kind of got to switch this around. We got to kind of make this not as blatant as it actually is. Like, we have to help this process out. And like you said, now there's 8, so 8 out of 32? Yeah, so a quarter of the teams basically are run by a minority head coach, and you can argue whether the fact that's too much, too little, too whatever, because you also have the situation where, forget about coaches, you also have the thing where you have to worry about the actual GMs and stuff like that, because they also run the organization as much as the head coach does, because they bring in the players, which then keeps the coach in longer, which then helps the fact if you want to get more minority head coaches, just a job in general, if the ones that are there right now are actually successful. But with Rooney, he, like you said, like, Tomlin's been the head coach for a decade and has been very successful, Super Bowl winning head coach, and went to another one. And it doesn't look like he's going to be fired anytime soon because he continues to win. Like, and now the teams that he has Antonio Brown, he's got Ben Roethlisberger. He's going to stay for a while. And now with Rooney passing away, like, he's 84 years old, him and Art Rooney is the Rooneys are one of the them and the Maras and the, I'm trying to think of the other people that are kind of like I guess the Al Davis too, like the people that kind of like brought the NFL into the mainstream, right? Like, not necessarily the people that did in like the 80s and 90s, but the ones in like the 60s, the ones that like basically through the AFL and everything else made the NFL become relevant to like a giant populace of people. Yeah,
and something I do want to point out, there was this ESPN article that came out last July.
Mm-hmm.
It's about Mike Sandel. He's the ESPN senior writer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's discussing, about the Rooney Rule. It's a study of pretty much of how many coaches have been first-time hires that are minorities. And in this article, it states that teams have taken a chance on 21 first-time white head coaches and only 1 first-time minority head coaches, which was Todd Bowles, over the past 5 hiring cycles, which was from 2012-16. The gap was identical, 21-1, nearly 2 decades ago, and that was when Herm Edwards was hired as the Jets head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Jets, Herm Edwards kind of, in that short span of time, in his stint, Herman Edwards kind of made a stamp, honestly. That's when he had that you play to win the game.
Right.
Conference, so,
He wasn't terrible. Like, Herman Edwards was pretty good enough as head coach. It kind of went south when he got to Kansas City.
He just never found the quarterback, honestly. I think that was just one of the things that happened to Herman Edwards is he had Chad Pennington as his best quarterback.
Right. I mean, Pennington wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. He was just somewhere in the middle and just kind of did stuff and won some games, but it was never, like you said he never had the quarterback. That's doomed a lot of basically head coaches throughout the league of just like having enough like talent somewhere, but the quarterback isn't there, and then all of a sudden you're not winning, and then all of a sudden, nope, got to go. But the one thing, because this isn't the only Rooney. There's more, obviously, Rooney people in the family, but I want to see how the Steelers are run now without, we've said one of the better people in this kind of sport, like seeing if it'll still run. It probably will, because the Steelers seem to have, a good enough organization in place, right? It's not just one guy. Like, if you have a good run organization, not just because you have one good guy at the top, it's because you have that one good guy at the top and then a bunch of other people who's following the lead of that guy. Like, the Miami Heat and the NBA are kind of that organization. The Lakers were at one point, so I guess anything's fallible. But, you assume the Steelers are still going to be run pretty well, and it's not going to be the thing of, in 5 years, the Steelers fire the head coach and then have, 5 more different head coaches over the next 5 years, and then it's chaos. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah,
it's just I'm just to see how his legacy will kind of last in the NFL. But I'm definitely will say that the Rooney rule is something that's it's going to be his biggest asset. It's definitely good for the NFL. I just think we live in kind of in a progressive country kind of right now. When we want a lot of equal opportunity. So right. That's kind of like the way that our country is right now, our society is, and I do think that this will reflect on the NFL, trying to get minority head coaches and GMs as well. So right. I got to say, my heart goes out to the Rooney family. And, I got to say, we lost a legend yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We did.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our first break. And when we return, we're going to discuss John Madden not being a fan of the Raiders moving to Las Vegas. So we will discuss that when we return to the Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast. Well, the NFL owners approve of the Raiders relocating to Las Vegas from Oakland. Well, one of the NFL legends, and he did coach in Oakland as well. He has a video game named after him, for crying out loud. John Madden, he does not like the Raiders moving to Las Vegas.
Not a fan.
He's not a fan. He was on Sirius XM radio this past week saying that he was jolted and shocked by the team's, league-approved plan to relocate to Nevada, according to ESPN's Paul Gutierrez. And, I think he was one of the guys that was really hurt by this because, when you think of Madden, his legacy is Oakland. He was one of those guys. I think, Charles Woodson was one of those guys, too, that was one of that kind of didn't like this because, Charles Woodson is a Raiders legend as well. So a lot of people did not approve of this. Me I thought it was the right move for the team because they needed to get a stadium. They needed to get out of Oakland because Oakland just couldn't afford this team. But, yeah, it looks like John Madden just doesn't like his old team moving to Las Vegas.
Yeah, the one thing when I heard that, I was surprised because for whatever reason I thought that he, being Madden, was like someone who, because with your Oakland, they went to L.A. at one time, obviously, so I thought he was in that team, but he was in Oakland the entirety of his career, so it makes sense that he doesn't want to see the team move because he probably wasn't a fan of it once he left when the team moved from Oakland to Los Angeles and then back to Oakland again. And I get it. He is one of the most famous Oakland Raider people, right? He is someone who is synonymous with just Oakland. Even somebody like Howie Long or Marcus Allen, they all kind of have ties to L.A., right? So it's not necessarily the same thing. He is the Oakland Raiders, and now that they're going to be moving, they're still going to be the Raiders. And I guess the Raiders are as experienced as anybody else as far as leaving and coming back, because who knows if they'll stay in Las Vegas. Maybe they end up moving back, because who knows. But I totally get it. He is someone who, we see this in other organizations, right? When teams leave, you take someone like the NBA, you take someone like a Gary Payton, right? Gary Payton is known for being with the Seattle Supersonics. They don't exist. The Oklahoma City Thunder are kind of that team because Durant played with them. It's thought of as it's the same numbers, it's the same, records, everything else that the Seattle Supersonics did is now what the Thunder did. No, that's not the same thing. They're two different organizations, right? The Browns went from Cleveland, they went to Baltimore, but they left all their stats back in Cleveland. So, I get that he's, for better or for worse, their stats stayed in Cleveland. And I can see him basically saying, no, I want to see this team stay in Oakland because that's my home. This Vegas thing, I have no ties to Vegas. Congratulations, you're going to Las Vegas. Why? Just because you want to make more money and you want to do all this stuff like that. It's for financial reasons, not anything else, which fair, it's a business, whatever, but I can see him being pissed about it.
Yeah, and one of the things that Madden was he had mixed feelings about was being a coach, an opposing coach, and taking the team there. This is what he said. He's all, quote, "I would hate to be a coach to take a team in there. I would hate to have my team in Las Vegas on Saturday night before the game.
Yep.
Every team has a bottom 10 group of misbehaving players. I think there's going to be a lot of problems like that. I'll stay in Mojave, Arizona, or something," end quote. So we talked about that.
He's not wrong.
He's not.
But also, to be fair, there are teams that in New Orleans and Miami. You can get in trouble anywhere. I do think the problem with the Raiders comes when they're in Las Vegas for the first few years, not once it's kind of established and you have people who are used to it. It's the first few years once you first get to Vegas and everybody around the league is just kind of oh, cool, we get to do all this. Let's see what's actually around Vegas. But once it becomes a old hat kind of thing and people have been doing it for a handful of years, then I don't think they care as much. But the first few years, no, man. Like you said, you have your bottom 10 players, which, yeah, you put enough people in an organization, you're going to get a few people that are kind of insane, right? You're going to get your crazies, right? You're going to get the people that are just kind of just do you not understand how bad that is? Nope, you're going to keep doing that? Okay, cool, good talk. Please don't get arrested. Please don't get arrested. God, he got arrested. Why does he always get arrested? Kind of thing like that. But, yeah, man, I get it, what's, John Madden's talking about, and I don't necessarily blame him for, wondering if, not only if, but when this whole thing goes south.
Yeah, I understand, he really does feel hurt about, this team moving to Las Vegas. He said that I think the reason why he's so hurt by this is because basically the Raiders, I don't think they're realistically going back to Oakland, and I think he knows that. And he says, quote, "There will be no more history of the Oakland Raiders, and that really bothers me." Mm-hmm. And I agree with him. I don't think there will be. I think they're done being in Oakland. They will never go back to that city.
No, we talked about this in other podcasts. The city of Oakland itself is going from a team that has a bunch of organizations to maybe none in a decade.
Yeah.
Right? You go from the Raiders, the Warriors, which play literally next door to Oakland, or next door to the Raiders and A's, and then instead of the A's in baseball. You have three organizations that play in Oakland. The Raiders are going to Vegas. The Warriors are going to the Bay Area, across the Bay
Well,
to
they're
San
going to-
Francisco. They're going across the Bay to San Francisco, and that leaves the A's, and the A's still play in a ballpark that, to describe it kindly, is bad.
Yeah.
Like, that stadium is really, really bad.
It is probably the worst stadium in North America.
And now the fact that the Raiders are leaving, now you will not have an organization in the NFL that plays on a baseball field anymore, because it was them and Miami were the two ones that played specifically in like half football, half baseball kind of venue. So you'd have the things where Janikowski would kick the field goal and you'd see like the outline of the baseball diamond. That's not going to be a thing anymore. Miami used to do that when they split, and then they had their own ballpark in Miami, which is where the old Orange Bowl used to be. They made a baseball park right there. And yeah, like, I don't honestly know if the A's are going to stay much longer. And then you basically take a city that had three organizations, and within the span of, like I said, about a decade, they all three could be gone.
Yeah. And, Madden also talked about the Raiders' stadium plan in Vegas that includes a 65-seat facility. And then he says, quote, "I'm not sure they have that whole deal together yet. I'm not sure they even know exactly what the stadium is, how many, where it's going to be, and all those things. For some reason, they jumped into that thing quickly."
No, that's it. That's the biggest thing of all of it. Because we can joke about like Las Vegas being basically like a cesspool and Sodom and Gomorrah, stuff like that. We could joke about all that stuff like that. The thing is, man, like, yeah, you're going to have Raider fans that come from L.A. because L.A. is close enough to Las Vegas. And you're going to have fans come from Oakland because they want to support the Raiders. I get all of that. Also, we talked about Miami and we talk about New Orleans, but you have people who live in New Orleans and Miami who, like, have decided to permanently live there. I mean, Miami has a lot of retired people, so you get a lot of a population that way. New Orleans has people who live there for years and years and years. And there are a lot of people that live in Las Vegas, but Las Vegas, for the most part, is a tourist It's a tourist place.
And then
like, you literally put a city in the middle of the desert.
Exactly. It's definitely a tourist. The whole city is a tourist attraction.
Which,
basically.
how does that play for a home field, right? Like, I get you may have people there to fill it up because people are going to want to go. It's the weekend, which is the best part. This isn't a baseball thing, which, by the way, that hockey team that they're having in Las Vegas, good luck with that, man. But the saving grace for the NFL is it's on the weekend. I mean, yeah, you're going to have a Thursday. You're going to have a Thursday night game, you have a Monday night game, whatever. But, like, the majority of the games are going to be on the weekend. So with that, it allows you to basically have people who are in Las Vegas for the weekend that basically say, like, oh, yeah, let's go see the Raiders. Like, that lends it for that. But that's going to kill your home field feel, right? It's basically going to be a thing where the crowd's going to be 50-50 at best. Because, yeah, you still have your Raider fans. Because Raider fans travel as well as any kind of fan base, be it the Packers, be it the Cowboys, be it whoever. They travel really well. But this isn't going to be like Oakland or Los Angeles where you had like a whole base. You're still going to have those people come, but it's also going to be a thing where you're going to have a lot of other fans because they're just in Vegas and they want to support their, like I said, Cowboys or Packers or Steelers or whoever, right? They're going to want to support their own team, or they just want to see a game. They just want to see a Raider game because they're from Australia and they're like, oh, Vegas, let's go to Vegas. And they're like, what, football? All right, we'll go see football too. Like, it's going to be a lot of stuff that the NFL, like, I'm sure they probably thought about it or whatever, but to see, like, how all of this, like, math actually plays out once the team has been there for a few years, because we saw Los Angeles, you have to be a pretty good organization to keep teams interested in L.A. because you have, like, NBA, Major League, hockey, the beach, just Hollywood in general. Like, there's so many things that just distract you, like ADD style in L.A. In Vegas, I mean, how do we describe Las Vegas yesterday?
We describe it as a city that's another country within a country.
It's another country. It's another country inside of this own country. And it's also the human embodiment of your internet browser history. Like, there...
Yes. Yes, I remember that.
Like, there is literally a million things for you to do in Vegas, half of which are very illegal. But, like, I want to see how this whole thing actually plays out.
Yeah, you know what? I want to bring this up to you. Can you imagine if the Raiders win the Super Bowl in 2018, right? Mm-hmm. The last year they were in Oakland.
Right.
And then they open the 2019 season on a Thursday night in Las Vegas. Can you imagine that?
That will have a lot of fans because, like I said, it's close enough to Oakland and L.A. that you will actually have Raider fans show up. That'll be cool. That'll be fun. Now they'll be sad and pissed off because, you know, it's not in Oakland. But, yeah, that's be
chaos,
good.
Dude.
That'll be good for the first year or two. that I don't think will be as much of a problem, especially if you have like a winning season. That makes your fan base grow because now you want to be around winning, right? People like being around winning. You can talk about, oh, you're a bandwagon fan. Okay, fine, but I also feel happy and I like feeling happy. Like, you get more fans when you start winning. Ask the Patriots, ask the Cowboys. Like, once you win, ask the Yankees. Once you win, you get more fans because it's more fun to feel good about your team than be the guy that's like, I'm going to keep rooting for the Browns. No offense to the Browns, but I mean, you know.
the Browns.
Browns.
All right, well, speaking of relocations, we have to discuss this. The city of St. Louis filed a lawsuit this past week.
You have like a stroke in the middle of that. You went like Los Angeles, St. Louis.
Shut up. All right, let me start over. Okay. The city of St. Louis filed a lawsuit on Wednesday.
There it is, proud of
against the NFL over the Rams' relocation to L.A.
Mm-hmm.
And there's allegations of that the league violated its own relocation guidelines, and they enriched itself at the expense of the community it left behind. So,
of course they did. Like reckless speculation, all the stuff like that. Of course they did. Like, do you think all of this was done on the up and up? Like,
tell me how you feel, Anthony.
Well, no, look, here's the thing. Like, look, man, you don't generally like move things and it's smooth and nice and everything's 100% good. Like, this whole thing with St. Louis and L.A. it's kind of shady from the jump, right? Like, it's the whole thing of just like you have this owner who basically bought a whole bunch of land in Los Angeles, and he's like, oh, yeah, but I'm not going to move to L.A. Okay, cool, good talk. And then what happened? He moved to L.A. So, like, there's like, even if there's no like actual, you know, legal proof of him doing something shady, like, you know, in a court of law, like actually figuring out if he did something like that, you know, it's kind of the whole Clay Bennett thing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, you bought this team with the sole, like, thought of not keeping it where it was. So, yeah, there's probably some shenanigans involved. It's just whether or not they can actually prove it, and they probably won't be able to.
Yeah, well, the lawsuit includes that St. Louis officials weren't aware of a move that was pretty much a done deal.
Sure.
They spent millions developing plans for, like, a new stadium in I almost said Los Angeles, in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, in this guidelines, the lawsuit alleges that the league enriched himself with the move because, you know, basically it's a violation to, you know, basically have, like, you can make more money in another city. You can't really technically say that, but we all know that's the reason why they moved, to make more money. Yeah. You're not going to make a lot of money in St. Louis in the Midwest.
My favorite part of these whole things is, like, you know, the people, you know, they didn't know that they were moving, or, like, you know, there was never their intention. The people that are running these organizations are billionaires, man. Like, they're really smart dudes, or at least they're really good at one level of business, right? Like, 'cause you can't really get that much money and be a dumb person. You may not be the best at it, but you're not dumb if you're a billionaire and you've managed to get that much money. But then this whole thing of where it's like, oh, this just happened. I have no idea how this happened. Like, okay, good talk.
And then, you know, St. Louis, all this, honestly, is about the city losing money in itself.
And they're scorned. It's a divorce. I totally get it. Like, you don't like the fact that your team left you and you want to basically have your revenge. Like, I don't blame them at all for it. I totally get it. It just is really hard to actually get these things to actually work out because, well, the thing is, like, let's say they actually prove it and it's basically agreed that, like, oh, yeah, the city of St. Louis kind of, like, got screwed over, right? The city of L.A. and Stan Kroenke and everybody else did some shady stuff. Does that mean they're going back to St. Louis? No. Like, they're staying there. So even if you can prove that they're kind of, like, you know, a-holes, like, that doesn't mean anything's going to change, which kind of sucks on a different level.
Yeah, I don't think the NFL is going back to St. Louis. I think San Antonio will get a team before them.
Right.
Vegas definitely got a team before them. Right. So I don't think the NFL is going to go back there. But I do want to point out that St. Louis, they have lost an estimated of $1.85 million to $3.5 million each year in amusement and ticket tax collection.
Mm-hmm.
As well as roughly $7.5 million in property taxes. So in total, the city is going to lose more than $100 million in proceeds. So this is basically, yeah, they're going to lose a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's how the best way to sum her up. And yeah, you know, this is something that's probably going to go on for the entire year. Like, it's not going to be something that's settled, like, right away.
Right.
All right, we're going to get into our last break here, and when we return, we're going to discuss a couple of things here about the Niners possibly trading the number 2 pick. Eli Manning allegedly involved in I guess you can call it a scheme. And Detroit, they unveiled new jerseys yesterday, so we'll discuss those things real quick when we return to Guns to Meet Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to Guns to Meet Concepts Football Podcast. Well, we're about a couple of weeks away from the NFL draft, and, we had discussions this past week about what the Browns might or will do with the number 1 pick regarding drafting Mitchell Trubisky or Myles Garrett. So, it's been a discussion the past week. As for the team with the 2nd overall pick, the San Francisco 49ers, General Manager John Lynch confirmed that they're taking calls now. The number 2 pick is open for business. And you know what? I think that's actually the best thing that they can do right now. Because, at number 2 pick, there's really no clear-cut player, surefire player that they can take right now. I know a lot of mock drafts in ESPN, NFL Network, they have the Niners taking Solomon Thomas. But I do think with them trading down, I can see this happening. And I wanted to bring this to you, Anthony. Can you see a possibility of the Browns trading that number 12 pick to the Niners to get the number 2 pick? That way they can draft Mitchell Trubisky at number 2.
Oh, anything is in play right now for the Browns. Like, they could do anything from trading both of their first-round picks for, 17 second-round picks. Like, there's nothing that I would put past Cleveland because, they're doing the whole, Moneyball thing, right? Of basically, I think it was, Bomani Jones basically saying, draft picks are basically lottery lottery tickets, right? So you basically have a bunch of them, and you hope one of them gets you a bunch of money, gets you the stuff that you want out of it. So them trading from 12 to 2 would basically be them saying, okay, we're literally going to take the 2 best people in college right now, and we hope that we take the 2 best. We hope we take the 2 people in the draft that, 5 years from now when this whole thing gets rewired. Okay, cool, those are the 2 best players in the draft. That doesn't generally happen. Generally, a couple people in the first 5 or 6 picks are bad. But, yeah, I can see them doing that. But they also, the way it's been going for them, it seems like they're just kind of stockpiling. They're just trying to grab, they take the 12th pick, and either they trade for a quarterback, Patriot style with Garoppolo, or they basically say, cool, you can have our 12th pick, give us a late first-round pick here, give us a first-round pick in 2 years from now, give us a second-round pick, and give us a fifth-round pick. They just kind of take all these things for the 12th pick. I can see that more than them going back to the 2.
Yeah, okay. And, I do think that trading the number 2 pick would be really good for the 49ers. This team needs they need to improve the roster. It's going to take it's going to take a couple years to improve it the way that it was.
They're not going to trade the 12 for the 2. They'd trade the 12 and their, second-round pick and their fifth-round pick. They trade a bunch of stuff for the second-round pick if they traded up for the 2 spot.
And did you hear that there was a report that the Niners were actually considering Leonard Fournette at number 2?
Yeah. I saw that, which I never understood.
I don't understand it either because, you got Carlos Hyde there who's been a starter for the past 2 years, even though he has some durability issues. And then they just signed Tim Hightower who looked like he could be a very valuable backup.
Well, the thing is, you can, people can go to say, Ezekiel Elliott got, drafted by the Cowboys, and look how much that helped. Cool. Also, the Niners have a lot worse offensive line than what the Cowboys did. And their team was a lot more stacked around him when they actually got him.
Not only that, they have a better quarterback.
Right. And he didn't even play.
Exactly.
So, the team was a lot better around Elliott when they drafted him. And if you take Leonard Fournette, it could literally just be the organization saying, okay, cool, Leonard, here's the ball. Have fun. Please don't die. Please try and avoid all those 11 guys coming at you trying to make sure that you don't get a yard.
Yeah. I, honestly, though, potentially, though, Leonard Fournette and Carlos Hyde, I don't know how they will fit together in a Kyle Shanahan system.
Right.
Because I do know Kyle Shanahan's system could work for two running backs. We've seen it in Atlanta with Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. But, Leonard Fournette and Carlos Hyde are two different backs than those guys.
Mm.
I don't know how it will work, but if this is actually true, then, I'll be interested to see it. But I'll tell you right now, no matter what team Fournette goes, he's going to sell merchandise.
Oh, yeah,
he's going to sell tickets.
Yeah, wherever he goes, because he's one of the 3-4 running backs in this draft that you know about, right? You get him, you get Christian McCaffrey, you get Dalvin Cook, you get Joe Mixon, you get people in here you've heard of.
Not only that, he's one of the top players that, general fans know that don't even watch college football.
Right, like he has a name. He's had a name for the last year. Like he's done the whole thing where, for the last handful of years, we always had that player who, like Jadeveon Clowney, should he play or should he sit out his final year of eligibility in college, something, because he was so good, but the rules don't permit him to go early, right? Because who was it? Was it Reggie Bush? No, Maurice Clarett, who tried to basically sue the NFL to play earlier, and the course basically said, no, you can't do that. You have to agree with what they do. So he's one of the guys who's basically so good early on, but had to stay another year. So he's got, like you said, a name, a brand already before he even gets to the NFL.
Yep. All right. Well, moving on to another story here. Eli Manning, according to the New York Post, looks like he had a role in the New York Giants scheme to sell fake game-used memorabilia. There's court documents that has an email from Eli to equipment manager Joe Skiba that read, quote, 2 helmets that can pass as game used. That is it, Eli, end quote. And, the Giants released a statement yesterday regarding, on behalf of the New York Giants. It says that, the email was taken out of context, was shared with the media by unscrumptious memorabilia dealer and his counsel, who for years have been seeking to leverage a big payday. The email predates any litigation, and there was no legal obligation to store it on the Giants server. Eli Manning is well known for his integrity, and this is just the latest misguided attempt to defame his character. So, yeah, this is quite a story involving Eli Manning.
I never want to believe that Eli Manning is some kind of vindictive, bad person or whatever.
Yeah, I don't believe this either. Honestly, I don't either.
It could honestly be true. Like, Ben and I were joking on the sports podcast that basically it's like, oh, he's just kind of like a Leave It to the Beaver kind of thing like that. Okay, well, Leave It to the Beaver could also grow up and become Bernie Madoff. Like, these things could happen. Like all these things are possible. I mean, all these things are possible, but like you also have a situation where like Eli just seems like, what was it? So I listened to Dan Le Batard's show, right, in Miami on ESPN and all that stuff, and he was saying that back, when they first started the show there in Miami, so they rented out for like not even for a party, but just like they're in Miami and they rented out the Versace mansion, and they had a party, and you have to put a time like when it starts. And I think they said like 10 or something like that, and Eli got there at 10, and it was just like, bruh, like, why are you showing up so early? Like, it's Miami, it's the Versace mansion. Don't show up at 10 o'clock. We just had to put a time when things started. Show up at like 12:30, 1 o'clock. Eli's kind of a dope like that, and that's just how I like to think of Eli Manning, as just like more of like a dopey guy who has a horseshoe up his bleep and has won 2 Super Bowls against the greatest quarterback of all time, right? Like, that's how I think of Eli, not as this like mastermind that's basically trying to like get more money, because like you're a quarterback, you get a lot of money. Like, that's not exactly what you're hurting for. It's not like you're a running back who's trying to hold on and you need money. Like, you get paid very well to be a quarterback in the NFL. Like, I don't think he's hurting for money.
No. These 3 memorabilia collectors, they have a lawsuit against Manny, Joe Skiba, and the Giants.
Right. And
there's an email exchange from Skiba admitting to the plaintiff in this lawsuit that stated Manny created the fake memorabilia because, quote, he didn't want to give up the real stuff.
Right.
End quote. So, yeah, the Manny and the Giants, they actually were sued before. Did you know this? That in 2014, I think, yeah, I guess like last March, a plaintiff claimed the Giants to give former player Michael Strahan, who is now on Good Morning America and ABC,
Right,
a bogus jersey he thought was used during Super Bowl 42. And there was a fake game used helmet for Manny that's supposedly in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So, yeah, this isn't the first time that's happened. So, but honestly, though, I'm gonna have to wait for more information to come out to actually decide if I believe this or not.
right.
Because at this point, it's just speculation. That's all these little lawsuits are, in any type of that has to do with any public figure. What celebrity, athlete, anything. So I have to wait for more information that comes out to see if I really believe it or not.
Sure.
But, I'm just going to go off of that. All right, well, to end the show here, the Lions unveiled new jerseys yesterday. Eric Ebron said that they're the best uniforms in the NFL.
Lies.
Did you see these, Anthony?
I mean, they're fine,
Yeah.
but like the best. Okay, like what are you gonna say? They stink. Like, you imagine having, like, Zach Ebron or whatever, like, in a press conference, and it's like, oh, okay, da-da-da, from the Detroit Morning Free Press. What do you think of the jerseys? They stink. And then he just kind of walks off the stage, like, I don't like them. And just, like, goes. Like, how's that going to go? Bad. So, like, I totally don't expect anything different. Like, the Lions sent out a tweet basically saying how fire it was, and it was just like, okay, that's not – okay, what do you want them to say? Like, they're going to say it's great. They're fine. But it's just like, why are we having new jerseys for the Lions? Oh, so they've won one playoff game in almost the last 60 years, which isn't me saying anything not factually accurate. Literally, they have like one playoff win in almost 60 years. Like, you understand how long that is? 60. Like, that is almost enough to retire on Social Security. 60. You have one playoff win. You know how much we got on Romo for not winning any playoff games? One. And you know when they got it? When they had Barry Sanders, who was the best player in the history of their organization. You know how hard it is to be that bad? You have to try to be that bad. Even the Browns probably got a playoff win in that time. Probably a few playoff wins. They're the Browns. We make fun of them every single day. The Lions have one. One.
All right. Are you done?
I'm out.
All right. All right. Well, the guy that designed this from Nike is Steve McClure. He actually grew up a Lions fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think this is one of the things that he was most excited about, basically designing uniforms from his hometown team. So, basically, the uniforms are just a little bit updated in the blue and silver scheme, color scheme that says Lions on the shoulder pad. So, there's a blue one. There is a gray one that's just all gray. I think that's the Color Rush uniforms as well. And they also have a throwback uniform from the Barry Sanders days.
Right.
A little bit, just a straight up blue and gray.
Mm-hmm.
The old school ones. I like those ones. I like the throwback uniforms. So, who do you think has the best jersey in the NFL? Anthony? It's kind of tough to say. I don't think it really matters who has the best jersey in the NFL. I just think the game makes the game.
Patriots has a good jersey. The Raiders have a good jersey. Cowboys. Like the historic teams, basically.
Yeah.
Had the same kind of stuff for a while. Maybe that's just because we're used to it, whatever, but I do
I think the Steelers have a really good jersey as well.
Yeah.
I'm a little biased here, but I really like the 49ers black jersey. I actually like their jerseys too. They're more of they kind of going back to the traditional colors in the 80s. But yeah, before we go, Anthony, I wanted to discuss our favorite moments of the week. It could be anything. What's your favorite moment of the week? Sports, pop culture, anything?
Let's see here. Like, of all...
It could be pop culture. It could be football. It could be anything. I just wanted to, do something fun for the Friday show to, set off the weekend here.
Right.
I can tell you mine. Might think of yours.
Yeah, go with yours.
My favorite moment of the week is the new Kendrick Lamar album.
And all the memes that come off of that.
Yes. We had a Tony Romo meme in a Mavs jersey that came off of that. Dude, I didn't think he can top To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City, but I'm telling you right now, every track in this album it's no flaws in it. It's flawless. I have to listen to it a couple more times, but first listen, man, I was like Ron Simmons. If you know who that is, I can't do it.
I guess you can't really do it.
If you know who that is, look on my Twitter.
So I'm looking through everything right now, trying to figure out good things. I love Russell Westbrook, but he didn't really do anything crazy. I love Rob Gronkowski.
Oh, Game of Zones is coming back.
Trying to see if there's anything. So there's nothing really that I can see that's like the one kind of like funny thing or whatever. Like, yeah, Gronk did more stuff with wrestling or whatever else like that, but that's just whatever. Like, that's fine. That's not that big of a thing. The Hawks remind Chuck of his prediction. Yeah, I can't think of something right now as far as like the funniest thing or whatever from the sports world. Like, I'm sure someone did something. I'm sure someone said something stupid. I'm sure I just can't think of anything right now. Like, like Romo basically trying to get his whole like Make-A-Wish thing, trying to be on the Mavericks for a day. Like, that was a whole fun thing or whatever, and I wish like that they would actually let him do it, just because that would have been a funny thing, seeing him actually play for the Dallas Mavericks. Like, that part was actually kind of funny, but it would have been better if he actually played.
Yeah, maybe. That's debatable.
He also probably would have gotten dunked on like 5 times, like at least. Like someone,
I can't.
Some player would have been like some player would have been like, "Oh, really? You think you're as good as us? You think you can play in the NBA?" Bam, dunked right on him.
I love the meme of Tony Romo replacing Kendrick Lamar on the back end of the cover with the track list on the back.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that was hilarious. Well, that's going to conclude it for us this week at the GSMC Football Podcast. I'll be back on Monday. Anthony, you will not be back till Wednesday. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.